My name is Sophia. I'm 35 years old and live in a small town about a 50-minute drive from Seattle. Every morning, I make myself a cup of espresso, listen to the weather report, then walk to my office just over a block away from home. I'm the co-founder of an AI software company in the data analytics field, a job that's not easy to explain, especially to people who think office work just means data entry all day. My phone pings with a family group chat I mute without reading. Same old praise for my sister, Vanessa. My family never understood what I do. Or maybe they never really cared to. To them, I've always been the weird younger sister, the one who dressed simply, never wore much makeup, and was always glued to her laptop or in some meeting. Last Easter, my cousin Tessa cornered me at dinner. "Sophia, why not get a normal job, like teaching?" Her words stung, echoing my family's dismissal of my ambitions. Vanessa, my older sister, is the one they're proud of. She's 3 years older than me and has always been the perfect daughter in their eyes. Beautiful, graceful, soft-spoken, and charming. Even in family photos, I was just a faint shadow behind Vanessa's spotlight. In our old album, there's a photo from Vanessa's graduation, her glowing, Ellen beaming, me barely visible in the corner with a book. On Thanksgiving or Christmas, relatives would gather around her with praise. "Vanessa, you look stunning in that dress." Or, "Vanessa, your new boyfriend's a lawyer, impressive." And me, if anyone even remembered I existed, the line was always, "Sophia, yeah, she's doing something in AI." I think they spoke as if I were a footnote at the bottom of the page. Once, Aunt Evelyn tried to intervene. "Sophia, tell us about your work." Before I could, Vanessa cut in. "It's just tech stuff, right? Let's talk about my project." The table laughed, and I stayed silent, ignored again. I used to think if I worked hard enough, if I stayed behind the scenes and carried the load, then one day my parents would finally see me and be proud, just like they were of Vanessa. But no, all the attention, all the expectations, all the compliments, they were always hers and me. I was always distant, dry, hard to talk to. I'd stay up nights replaying moments where I shared a milestone, like an algorithm for our software, only for Ellen to nod and say, "Nice, dear. Vanessa, how's your promotion?" They never knew I'd stayed at the office until midnight handling a crisis for a data privacy initiative worth nearly $2 million, 0 cents. They never asked how it felt to build a company from scratch with 3 college friends. My co-founders, Mia, Arjun, Lucas, became my real family. Over pizza in our first office, Mia said, "Sophia, your parents don't get how big this is, do they?" I shrugged, hiding the pain. "They don't care. When people ask about my family, I just give a faint smile and say, 'We haven't spoken in a while. It's nothing.' Not because I'm hiding something, just because there's nothing left to say. We haven't talked in over 3 years. No texts, no calls, no birthday wishes. Just silence like a broken line nobody bothered to reconnect. Last time I reached out, I sent Ellen a photo of me accepting an award at a tech summit. Her reply, 'Looks nice. Vanessa's planning her engagement party. Can you help with catering?' I didn't respond. I used to believe family was the place you could always return to. But one day on my mother's birthday, that belief shattered. It was a slow erosion. But that birthday was the final blow, shattering my hope of belonging. It was early October. I had just closed a successful funding round with an investment firm from San Francisco. I planned to take 3 days off and fly back early to help my parents prep for Ellen's birthday like I always did. Nothing fancy, I just wanted to help out like always. When I called to let them know, it was my dad who picked up. "I'm planning to come back early. Let me know if there's anything you need me to pick up or prepare," I said. I still remember his voice. Not angry, just strange. A short pause, then he cleared his throat. "Sophia, if possible, don't come home this year." I was in my office, phone pressed to my ear. "What do you mean, Richard?" I asked, heart racing. I froze for a second, thinking maybe he was worried I was too busy with work. "It's okay, Richard. I've already cleared my schedule. I really want to be there." This time, his voice was firm. "Vanessa is bringing her new boyfriend. He's a CMO, well-spoken, clearly successful. Your job, well, it's hard to explain. Your presence would just invite comparisons and make things awkward, so it's best you stay." "Awkward?" I snapped. "You're saying I shouldn't come because of Vanessa's boyfriend?" He sighed, impatient. "Sophia, Don't make this a thing. Just do us this favor. I went numb. My chest tightened, a cold sting crawling down my spine. I gripped the phone and said through clenched teeth, "Are you saying I make the family look bad? That I shouldn't come home because I'm an embarrassment?" He didn't take it back. In fact, he doubled down. "If you insist on coming, then don't call me your father." Then he hung up. No hesitation, no second thoughts. The dial tone echoed. My assistant Chloe knocked. "Sophia, you okay?" I forced a smile. "Family stuff?" I said, but my hands shook. My apartment went eerily quiet. The espresso cup in my hand had gone cold. I stared into the empty air like the world had cracked open with a single sentence. I didn't cry. I just sat there. And for the first time in my life, I realized something. I was no longer part of the family I had tried so hard to hold together. I found an old letter I'd written to Richard, thanking him for supporting my dreams. I tore it up. The pieces a symbol of a bond now broken. I sat there in my familiar armchair by the window, late fall sunlight pouring through the white curtains, unable to warm the chill inside me. My father's words echoed again, clear and final. "If you insist on coming, then don't call me your father." I looked down at my hands. My fingers trembled, not from anger, but from something deeper. The breaking point. I remembered Ellen's casual call 18 months ago. "The Sophia, the roof's leaking, can you send more?" I'd sent $3,000, 0 cents without question. I had always thought that, even if I'd never be loved like Vanessa, at least I was still their daughter. Turns out I wasn't. I stood up and walked to my desk. Without hesitation, I opened my laptop and logged into my banking app. For over 3 years, I'd been sending money to my parents every month, covering their electric bill, water, internet, even cable. Nearly $6,000 a month, not counting the extra I'd send when Ellen said the fridge broke down or Richard's car needed work. A call from Vanessa months ago replayed. "Sophia, you're good with money. Can you cover Richard's car repair? I'm swamped." I'd agreed, then saw her Instagram lavish vacation photos. She wasn't swamped. She just knew I'd say yes. They never asked if I could afford it. They just said, "Vanessa's struggling after switching jobs. If you can help, that'd be great." And I helped, quietly, as if it were my duty. As if responsibility were some invisible contract I'd signed the moment I started earning. I opened the transaction history and scrolled. The total popped up, $15,720, 0 cents. My heart sank. Not because I regretted it, but because even after all of that, I was never enough. Each transaction stung, $500 or 0 cents for their needed TV, $1.20 for Vanessa's emergency rent. I whispered, "Enough." I hovered over each bill. Electric, water, internet. Click, then another. Notifications popped up, auto payment canceled successfully. No alarms, no warnings, just silence. Just like how I'd always existed in my family. With the final cancellation, I felt a release, like cutting a rope that had choked me for years. "No more," I said, closing the laptop. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was angry, but because I kept thinking about how everything unfolded. About what my father said. About how my entire family was willing to cast me aside just to impress Vanessa's new boyfriend, a man I hadn't even met. I'd been compared all my life. But this was the first time I was publicly rejected, as if my existence was an inconvenience. I imagined Vanessa at the party, arm linked with Ethan's, my parents boasting about her, oblivious to the daughter they'd erased. Ellen's birthday came quickly. I didn't call. I didn't send a card. I didn't post anything online. Not out of spite, but because I couldn't pretend anymore. At exactly 5:00 p.m., as I sat on my balcony sipping peppermint tea, my phone buzzed. It was my Ellen. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then let it go dark. A message came in right after. "Sophia, why is the power out? Can you check for us?" Her sweetheart felt like a slap, ignoring the wound they'd inflicted. I set down my tea and opened the next message from Richard. "No water, no internet. Call the providers. Ellen's freaking out." I sat in silence, eyes fixed on the tree out back. No anger, no pain, just an eerie calm. They didn't ask, "Are you okay?" Not a word about the phone call. They just wanted me to do what I'd always done, clean up the mess. Richard's text was in order. I'd pictured him pacing, barking, Why isn't Sophia fixing this? Then came a text from Vanessa. The internet's down, guests are coming, and Ellen is almost in tears. What's going on? Vanessa's message dripped with accusation, as if I'd ruined her moment. Sophia, you're always so dramatic, she'd said once when I complained about being ignored. I picked up my phone and typed 3 weeks ago, Richard told me if I insisted on coming home, I shouldn't call him my father. I'm just doing what he asked. A FIS is inconvenient. Maybe find someone you're not ashamed to introduce. I didn't send it. I deleted it. Not because I regretted it, but because I knew no matter what I said, they'd only hear what suited them. I saved the draft, a promise to myself I'd never beg for their understanding. I set the phone down, leaned back in my chair, and closed my eyes. My little apartment was still and quiet. No complaints, no judgmental looks, no demands. The next day, Vanessa left a voicemail. Ellen's been crying since last night. Do you know how important yesterday was? My boyfriend met the family for the first time and everything got ruined. You're so selfish. I played the voicemail twice, her voice cracking with rage. Selfish, she spat, as if I owed her the spotlight. I deleted it, feeling lighter. I listened to the whole message, then turned off my phone. For years, I hadn't been selfish enough. Now it was time. I felt the weight of their expectations lift, replaced by resolve to choose myself. I opened my work email and checked the weekend operations report. One subject line stood out. Oregon staff transfer to Seattle. Awaiting approval, I opened the attached list, skimmed through the names, and then I stopped. Ethan Caldwell. That name made my heart skip a beat. My consent mug nearly slipped. The coincidence was too sharp to ignore. I remembered it because just 5 days ago, my mother had mentioned it. Vanessa's boyfriend Ethan works at a major corporation. I squinted at the file. Current position, head of strategy, Oregon branch. Transferring to Seattle HQ. Approver Sophia Bennett, co-founder. I called Mia, my co-founder. Mia, did you know about this Ethan Caldwell transfer? She laughed. He's a big deal in strategy. Why, you know him. He's dating Vanessa, I said. Mia's silence spoke volumes. I let out a small laugh, just a reflex. The world was smaller than I thought, and I knew what was coming had only just begun. The irony hit hard. The man my family idolized would answer to the daughter they dismissed. I sat still in front of my laptop, my hand resting on the mouth, my chest hollow, as if someone had taken a piece of my memory I'd clung to for too long. Nearly $16,000, 0 cents. 0 cents. Every cent of it paid by me, month after month, without reminders, without delays. And yet, not once had they said, thank you. Not once. I found an email from Ellen. Sophia, Vanessa's car payment is late. Can you handle it? No gratitude, just expectation. I deleted it. I scrolled back through the payment list, the same lines repeating. $19,248, 0 cents. My electricity, $136.72. My water, $248, 50 cents. My internet and cable, month after month, like I was their unpaid family accountant. Unseen, unacknowledged, forgotten. Each entry was a betrayal. I imagined confronting Vanessa. Did you know I paid your cable while you partied? She'd laugh it off. I remembered the last phone call with my Ellen about 18 months ago, when she called around midnight just to say, Sophia, the bathroom pipe purses, can you call? Vanessa's on vacation with her boyfriend. You're the only one left. You're the only one left. It sounded harmless, but it was a bitter truth. I wasn't loved like a daughter. I was just the solution when the ones they truly cared about didn't show up. I'd stayed up until 2, a planner, while Vanessa posted beach selfies. Ellen never checked on me. And now being told not to come home because my presence didn't look good? I finally understood. All these years, nothing I did was ever received with love. I was only remembered when a bill needed paying or a problem needed fixing. But when I needed something, no one was there. When I had the flu and asked Vanessa for groceries, she texted, "Sorry, busy." I ate dry cereal for days. That memory burned. My phone lit up again, a message from my Ellen. Sophia, I know yesterday got a little tense, but if you could take care of the internet bill, that would be great. Vanessa is trying to keep things calm with the guests. Her tense felt like a knife, rewriting my pain as a minor hiccup. I stared at the message like an outsider. No apology, no mention of the cruel rejection from my father. Just another request, like always. Set the phone down without replying. I poured wine, the glass cold in my hand, their audacity stinging. I stepped outside onto the porch, sitting in the wooden chair under the fading November sun. Seattle wasn't warm yet, but the crisp air somehow made me feel clearer. I thought about Ethan, Vanessa's new boyfriend and now my incoming employee. The irony. My family excluded me from Ellen's birthday because of him while he was about to report directly to me. I chuckled, picturing Vanessa's smug smile as she introduced Ethan, unaware he'd call me boss. If life were a comedy, this would be its finest punchline. I returned to my desk and opened the email. The subject line stood out. New hire confirmation, Ethan Caldwell, transferred to Seattle office. I clicked on the profile. Everything matched. Age, experience, degrees, a polished resume, exactly the kind Vanessa would go for. Educated, established, charming on paper. His photo showed confidence. I recalled his handshake at a tech summit, something familiar. Then I remembered we'd briefly met at a tech summit about 8 months ago. He shook my hand and politely called me co-founder Bennett, but neither of us made the connection. Or rather, I never cared enough about Vanessa to know who the man beside her was. Now, I had a choice. Approve the transfer or deny it. I hurried over approve, tempted to reject it to disrupt Vanessa's narrative. But chaos was a better teacher than vengeance. But I knew I didn't need to do anything. Life had already written the perfect script. I just needed to sit back and see what would happen when Vanessa found out. Her boyfriend reported to the sister who embarrassed the family. I clicked approved, smiling. Let's see how this plays out, I murmured. The next day, Ethan arrived at the office. He stepped into mine with a folder, his face slightly tense. When I looked up, his eyes paused on me, then widened in shock. Sophia? He asked softly. His voice trembled, clutching the folder like a shield, his polish cracking. I smiled faintly, calm and composed. Welcome to Horizon AI Solutions. I'll be reviewing the entire strategic plan for this quarter. I look forward to working with you. I gestured to the chair. Sit, Ethan, let's dive in. Ethan froze. His face flushed, then turned pale. No one in my family knew I co-founded this company. No one had ever asked what I really did. They just assumed I was some low-level desk worker. He stammered. I didn't know. Vanessa never said. I raised an eyebrow. No need for that. Focus on the numbers. I said nothing more, just slid the contract toward him. Ethan took it and quietly left the room. I leaned back in my chair. I wasn't happy. I wasn't sad. I just felt like the wheel had finally turned. And this time, I didn't have to say a word. The truth had spoken for itself. I heard him whisper, "How did I not know?" as he left. The drama was just beginning. The morning of my Ellen's birthday, the Seattle sky was unusually gray. A thick fog hung in the air, making everything look blurred, like the world itself was bracing for something to unravel. I poured myself a strong black coffee, sat by the window, and stared at the empty yard. I imagined Vanessa orchestrating the party, Ellen fussing over the cake, Richard pretending all was fine. I didn't plan to do anything. It's no texts, no calls, no birthday post. I just wanted things to play out exactly as they were without me. At 9:00, I made my phone buzzed. First message from Ellen. Sophia, sweetheart, I think the power's out. Can you check for us? It's an important day. Her sweetheart rang hollow, a plea ignoring my pain. I placed the phone face down on the table. Same tone, sweet, gentle, like nothing had ever happened. Like I hadn't been told by my father that I embarrassed the family and shouldn't show up. 15 minutes later, a second message, this time from Richard. Still no power, water's not running either. Is something wrong with the payments? Call the provider now. His words were sharp, like I was an employee. I pictured him shouting, "Where's Sophia?" Short, cold, no concern, no mention of me being excluded from the party, just a command, like I was still their logistics manager. I sighed. For 3 years, I'd never missed a single payment. Electricity, water, internet, cable, I canceled them all, one by one, the night my father hung up and severed everything because I was hard to introduce. I recalled that night, my fingers shaking as I clicked cancel, each a rebellion against years of being used. And now, on the very day Vanessa was introducing her boyfriend to the family, the house was in chaos. No electricity, no water, no internet. It's exactly as expected. By 11 o'clock IEM, the messages came flooding in. Ellen, Sophia, please, I'm begging you. Guests are arriving. Can you just help this once? Richard, no electricity. We can't cook. Where are you? Take care of this now. Vanessa, seriously, Sophia, today is special. Ellen's about to cry. There's no internet. I can't call anyone. I'm losing it here. Can you stop being selfish? Vanessa's text was a dagger, her entitlement blazing. I imagined her snapping, Sophia's ruining everything. I leaned back. My coffee had gone cold. The text didn't make me feel vindicated. They didn't satisfy me. All I felt was emptiness. A quiet, unwavering emptiness. Then the phone buzzed again. A video call from Aunt Evelyn, the only person in the family who still sent holiday messages, even if I rarely responded. I hesitated, thumb over decline. Evelyn's kind eyes had always seen me. I hesitated, then answered. Her old kitchen came into view, lit only by a phone flashlight. She looked tired, eyes slightly red. Sophia, she said softly, your Ellen's in a panic. The house is dark, everyone's running around and no one knows what to do. I said, nothing, just looked at her. Her voice cracked. Sophia, this isn't you. Talk to me. I swallowed, her concern nearly breaking me. She paused, then added, not accusing, not defending. What happened? You've never missed your Ellen's birthday. I know you have your reasons, but say something. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice steady. My Richard said, I made the family look bad. Told me by my father that I shouldn't call him my father anymore. What do you think I should do after that? Evelyn's eyes widened. Said what? She whispered, hand over her mouth. Sophia, I didn't know. Aunt Evelyn froze. Her face changed in an instant. In the background, I heard noise. My mother saying loudly, she's probably just sulking. No one would be heartless enough to do this. Then a sharper voice. Vanessa, Ethan's almost here. Someone called the power company already. I can't believe she did this to us today. Ellen's words cut deep, her dismissal a blade. I imagined Vanessa nodding, painting me as the villain. I gave a slight, joyless smile. Aunt Evelyn heard everything. She didn't defend anyone, didn't say a word, and then, unexpectedly, the screen shifted. A new face entered the frame. Ethan, same neat suit, same polished expression as in his resume. He stared at the screen and blurted out almost involuntarily. Sophia? His voice mixed shock and dread. The room went silent. You're Sophia Bennett, the one who runs Horizon AI Solutions. I nodded, eyes steady, a long pause. Then Ethan turned to everyone in the room. She's my direct superior and the one who approved my transfer to Seattle. Gasps echoed. Vanessa's sharp cut through, stunned silence. Vanessa's jaw dropped. My parents froze. No one said a word. I calmly replied, hope your introduction today goes well. Then I ended the call. As the screen went black, Ellen's faint cry rang out. Vanessa, did you know? The chaos was real, and I hadn't lifted a finger. After the call, I set my phone down without another word. Outside the window, the dim afternoon light filtered weakly through the thick gray clouds. Everything around me was so quiet it barely felt real. I poured coffee, the steam grounding me. The silence wasn't victory, it was clarity. No voices, no follow-up texts, no calls. Just me and a strange, weightless sense of relief. After a truth revealed not by me but by them, I didn't need to expose anyone. I just stayed silent and let everything unfold exactly as it was meant to. Ethan had confirmed it clearly. I was his superior, the co-founder of Horizon AI Solutions, the company they assumed I was just some desk worker for. I pictured the kitchen, air thick with shock. Vanessa's facade had crumbled, and I hadn't said a word. In that moment, my family's kitchen became a stage where the masks fell one by one and no one could stop them. And Vanessa, my sister, the one who once whispered to Ellen that Sophia should pick a job that's easier to introduce, now stood frozen beside a birthday cake that hadn't even been lit. I imagined Vanessa clutching her phone, eyes darting to Ethan, searching for an explanation. She had tried so hard to impress her boyfriend with empty compliments and a picture for family, but in the end, it was that very boyfriend who called me boss in front of everyone. I could picture the scene like I was watching a replay. My mother, so flustered she nearly dropped the cake tray, my father, red-faced, gripping the edge of the table, and the relatives, those who only showed up for food and judgment, sitting in stunned silence, eyes darting around as they tried to process what just happened. Susan Tessa's voice echoed, "Sophia's just there, right?" Now, she'd whisper, "Did we miss something?" And Aunt Evelyn still had the call going, her gaze no longer curious, but something closer to respect. She didn't say much, just gave me a small nod before ending the call. Evelyn texted later, "Sophia, I'm proud of you. Less I'd spoken up sooner." I didn't reply, but her words warmed me. That evening, I got the first message from Vanessa. Long, messy, a mix of anger and desperation. "You knew all along, didn't you? You let it happen right during the party. Ellen's been crying all night. Ethan doesn't even know how to react. Don't you think that was cruel, Sophia?" Her words were frantic, typed through tears. I heard her shrill voice blaming me for her unraveling. I watched the message pop up on my screen but didn't open it right away. I made a cup of ginger tea and sat on the couch, letting the steam ease the tightness in my throat. I didn't feel joy, but I didn't feel guilty either. I recalled Vanessa's smirk at a dinner saying, "Sophia's too serious for party." Now, her party was ruined, and I hadn't thrown a stone. After about 10 minutes, I finally hit reply. Just a few lines, no need for more. "You say I was cruel. I was just at home." I didn't start the video call. I didn't call myself his boss. I didn't do anything. And if a single truth was enough to ruin the whole party, maybe that party was never built on anything solid in the first place. I hit send. I wasn't waiting for a reply. I imagined Vanessa reading it, her face crumpling, knowing I'd spoken a truth she couldn't dodge. Half an hour later, my phone buzzed again. This time it was my Ellen. The message was short. "I never expected you to choose this way to get back at the family." "Back," I whispered, shaking my head. I pictured Ellen rewriting history to make me the villain. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. Get back. Is that what they thought this was? I just remembered being shut out of a family event, having my role as a daughter dismissed because my job wasn't impressive enough. I remembered quietly paying dozens of bills over 3 years without a single check-in. I remembered trying so hard to be accepted, to be loved, and now I was done trying. I opened a journal, crossing out, "They'll see me," and wrote, "I see myself. That's enough." Around 10 p.m., I got an email from Ethan. "Sophia, I'm sorry I didn't know sooner. I truly respect you for your work and for the way you stayed silent today. I've never felt more ashamed, but not because of you." I read it, then replied slowly, "Ethan, you don't need to apologize. Everyone is responsible for how they choose to see others. And don't worry, I never bring family matters into work, but I hope you understand now. Sometimes silence is the greatest strength." I typed carefully, each word a boundary. Ethan's email was raw, unlike Vanessa's venom. I clicked send, turned off my screen, and placed the phone face down on the table. Tomorrow, I'd still go to the office like usual. There would be reports to review, meetings to prepare for, and a world still turning outside. Only now, there was one difference. Starting today, they, the ones who once dismissed me, finally knew who I was. And without a single shout, without any accusations, I had made them go silent. The quiet felt sacred, proof of truth's power over noise. The next morning, as I walked into my office, sunlight filtered through the glass panels, casting a warm golden glow across the room. The air was calm, as if the universe had given me a few quiet minutes to breathe before the day's noise returned. I sat at my desk, powered on my computer, and opened my email as usual. In the priority inbox, there was one unread message. Sender Ethan Caldwell. I clicked it. Subject, apology and goodbye, Sophia. I don't know where to start, but after last night, I couldn't sleep. I've been thinking what happened probably shouldn't have happened in front of so many people, but at the same time, I feel a strange sense of clarity, especially about you. I paused, his words heavy. I imagined him typing late, wrestling with the fallout. I'm not ashamed that you're Vanessa's sister. I'm ashamed that I didn't see her true self sooner. I can't stay in a relationship where basic respect doesn't exist. As of today, I'm ending things with Vanessa. Thank you for staying silent yesterday, and thank you for the way you lead. Quiet but strong and fair, Ethan. I pictured Vanessa's tears, her disbelief that her charm failed. I read it twice, then leaned back in my chair. I wasn't happy that Vanessa got dumped. I just felt something right. Like for the first time, someone outside finally saw what I'd been living with for years. The things I was told I was too sensitive about or too cold for staying quiet about. I didn't reply. There was no need. I closed the email, feeling vindicated. Ethan's choice wasn't mine, but it mirrored Vanessa's flaws. But about 2 hours later, as I was reviewing the strategic summary from the strategy team, my phone lit up. A message from Vanessa. Sophia, I know you're busy, but please can you talk to Ethan for me? He's misunderstanding everything. Her tone was desperate, childlike. I imagined her pacing, mascara smudged, her image shattered. I looked at the message, calm and unmoved. I didn't reply right away. Less than 5 minutes later, another message came through. You're his boss. You have influence. If you say something, he'll reconsider. I scoffed. Influence? She thought I'd fix her mess, as if I owed her. I stood up and walked over to the window, gazing down at the busy street below. All those years I had wished for just one message from Vanessa checking in when I was hurting, one word of encouragement when I failed. But there was nothing. And now that her relationship had crumbled, the person she turned to was me. Not to apologize, but to fix it. I recalled her at 16, stealing my debate trophy for a photo. You don't care about this, right, Sophia? I'd let it go, like always. I returned to my desk and typed. Ethan didn't leave because of anything I said. He left because of who you are, and maybe for the first time he really saw it. I added, You've always taken, Vanessa, this time you can... Vanessa didn't reply immediately, but about an hour later a new message arrived. You're right, but I really don't want to lose him. I'll change this time. Please, just this once. Her plea rang hollow. I pictured her hoping her charm could sway me. I didn't respond, not because I was angry, but because I was past the point of explaining. When I left the office that evening, the late fall breeze was still chilly, but the sunset cast a deep orange glow across the rooftops. I walked to the parking lot slowly, without hurry, without worry. A violinist's tune drifted by, a farewell to my old self. Maybe for the first time in years, I felt light. I hadn't sought revenge. I had simply lived my truth and let the rest reveal itself. Vanessa had brought this ending on herself, and Ethan, once dazzled by the facade of a perfect family, had finally seen the foundation beneath, the one I had lived on most of my life. I imagined Ethan at the party, his face tightening as Vanessa deflected blame, her charm fading. That night, I played an old playlist, the kind of music that used to make me feel invisible during my early startup days. But tonight, the melody sounded like a quiet affirmation. The indie tracks from college now celebrated my strength, each chord a step toward freedom. I had stepped out of the shadows, not by yelling, but by standing firm. And that's what Vanessa, or anyone else in my family, had never seen coming. I didn't need validation anymore. I just needed to be myself and live what I truly deserved. I was no longer the girl begging for love. I was whole. About a week after things calmed down, on a rare Sunday afternoon, when I decided not to touch my laptop, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and I almost ignored it. But something made me glance through the peephole. My parents were standing at the gate. My heart skipped, dread mixing with curiosity. They looked out of place, faces etched with vulnerability. I stood still for a few seconds, letting my mind catch up with what I was seeing. My Ellen held a small bag, her face tired. My Richard had his arms crossed, his eyes less stern than during our last call, but still carrying that usual hardness. I opened the door, said nothing. The air hummed with tension. Ellen's eyes searched for guilt. Hi, honey, my Ellen said first, her voice raspy like she'd just gotten off a long flight. Can we come in and talk for a bit? Sure, I said, neutral, catching Richard's heavy glance. I silently stepped aside to let them in. No hugs, no warm greetings, just a heavy silence stretching from the hallway to the living room. I poured some water, set down 2 glasses, and sat across from them. My Ellen glanced around the apartment, simple, tidy, and completely untouched by any presence of my parents. Ellen's fingers fidgeted with her bag, lingering on a photo of me with my startup team. Richard spoke first. About your Ellen's birthday. I said some things I shouldn't have. I stayed quiet. He looked at me, then continued slower this time. Maybe we've been a little hard on you. Vanessa's been a mess since the breakup, and your Ellen's been crying nonstop, so we wanted to sit down and talk like a family. His apology felt rehearsed, a line practiced in the car. I still said nothing, just nodded slightly. I wanted to see where they were going with this. I was used to the long build-up before they got to what they really came for. Just as I expected, my Ellen jumped in right after. Well, we actually have a proposal. She hesitated, then placed the bag on the table and pulled out a printed sheet. We've thought it through. You're stable now. Your job is great. If possible, we're hoping you could help us with a monthly contribution, around $2,000, 0 cents. Just enough to cover living costs, insurance, and some retirement savings. I blinked, the audacity hitting hard. 2,000, I said, voice edged. What's this? I gestured to the paper. I looked up at her. 2,000 a month? My Richard jumped in, as if afraid I'd misunderstand. It's not much for someone in your position. We're family, Sophia. Family, I repeated, letting it hang. Funny how that word comes up when you need something. Richard reddened, silent. I sat up straighter and kept my tone steady. What about Vanessa? My Ellen hesitated. She's not doing well after the breakup. She's down, work's not going great. We can't pressure her. Of course, I said, smiling bitterly. Vanessa's fragile, right? I'm the ATM. Ellen flinched. I let out a soft laugh, not out of bitterness, just because it was all so familiar. Vanessa was always the one who couldn't be pressured, and I was always the one who could handle it. I looked directly at them. If Vanessa agrees to contribute her part, $1, 0 cents. 0 contract. One that clearly states, when you both pass, all assets, including the house, will belong to me. Richard's eyes narrowed. You're bargaining? I leaned forward. No, setting terms, like a business. Silence filled the room. My father furrowed his brow, his face flushing red. Are you seriously giving your own parents conditions? Conditions, I said, voice rising. I gave you $16,000, 0 cents without conditions. Where was family then? I didn't blink. Not conditions, principles. I already spent nearly $16, 0 cents on this family over 3 years, without anyone ever acknowledging it. If you want me to continue, then things need to be clear. My mother turned to my father, her voice starting to waver. Maybe we should talk it over. Ellen's eyes glistened. Take your time, I said, cool. Off, but he shot up from his seat, slamming his hand against the wooden table, making the glasses rattle. We raised her for over 20 years, and now when we ask for a little help, she demands a contract? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I stood, matching him. What's unbelievable is you thinking I'd pay for a family that disowns me. I stayed seated, my eyes locked on him. Richard, I don't owe you. If you think raising me was some kind of investment that needs a return, we can calculate it line by line. But I won't pay for it with silence anymore. He opened his mouth, then closed it, faltering. Let's not make this worse. He looked like he wanted to argue, but froze, lips pressed tight. My mother stood up and gently tugged at his arm. Let's go. I stood too, walking them to the door. No hugs, no goodbyes. Richard turned back. You've changed, Sophia. I nodded. Good. The door shut, final as a gavel. When the door closed behind them, all that remained was the soft breeze drifting in from the balcony. In that stillness, I knew another chapter had ended, and this time I was the one who wrote the final line. I sank into the couch, the silence a shield. I'd drawn my line, and it felt like freedom. After that day, my parents never reached out again. No calls, no messages, no accusations, not even an apology for the outburst that had hit my home like a storm. As if every disappointment in their lives had been caused by their difficult daughter. But I wasn't surprised. I deleted Ellen's unheard voicemail the next day. Their silence was resentment, and I was done carrying it. I'd grown used to that kind of silence. The kind that didn't come from shame or remorse, but simply from people who don't know how to speak when they're no longer in control. I kept living my life. Quiet mornings with coffee, strategic meetings that ran late into the evening, signing deals with partners who once doubted a young woman could run an AI software company. So at an investor dinner, a partner toasted to Sophia, who proved us wrong. I smiled, thinking, if only my family knew. And through it all, I stopped feeling guilty. I stopped thinking I was wrong for saying no to being the backup wallet, the default caretaker, just because I could handle it. Because eventually you have to understand love can't be measured in monthly payments, and it can't be forced through a sense of duty. I wrote a letter to myself, sealed, "You are enough." I tucked it away, a promise to never doubt my worth. If affection only exists as long as the bills are paid, then it's not family, it's a transaction. I started cutting the invisible strings that tied me to the roles they had assigned me. I no longer used a family photo as my phone wallpaper. I didn't remember Vanessa's birthday. I didn't mark the holidays to send a little something. I replaced the family photo with a marathon finish line shot, sweat-soaked and triumphant. Vanessa's birthday passed unnoticed. I no longer hovered over guilt-ridden messages. I learned to put the period myself, instead of waiting for them to start with an apology. One day, during a team meeting, Ethan, now officially our company's head of strategy, walked in with an investment report. He worked with focus, professionalism, and always kept a respectful distance. Ethan nodded. "Great quarter, Sophia," his tone warm but professional. I nodded back, grateful for the unspoken understanding. We never talked about Vanessa, not once, and I appreciated that. Some things, when fully understood, are best left unspoken. That afternoon, as I left the office, it was drizzling. I stopped by a familiar cafe, choosing a seat by the window. On the wall was a carved wooden sign. Home is not always a place. Sometimes it's a choice. The barista slid a free pastry my way. "You look happy, Sophia." "I am." I sat there sipping a hot latte, reflecting on the path I'd taken. There was a time when I believed that if I just stayed quiet, gentle, and responsible enough, I would eventually be accepted. But the truth is, if you let people get used to disrespecting you, they'll start seeing your sacrifices as obligations, and your silence as agreement. A mentor's advice echoed, "Don't dim your light to make others comfortable." I'd finally taken it to heart. I chose to stand up, not to go against my family, but to protect myself. I chose to set boundaries, not because I'm selfish, but because I finally understood self-worth can't be defined by someone else's pity or sudden needs. And if someone were to ask me, "Sophia, do you regret not helping your parents when they needed you?" my answer would be, "I regret that it took me so long to realize I deserved more than that." I'd say, "I regret chasing love that wasn't mine." But I'm free now. Because real family is where you're seen as a whole person, not a wallet, not a stand-in, not the fallback plan for people who always put you last. I thought of Mia, Arjun, Lucas, who celebrated my birthday with a surprise cake. That was family. I know my story might challenge some. Society often labels refusing family duty as betrayal, but walk in my shoes. I was the daughter sidelined for not shining brightly enough, the one who poured thousands into their lives without a single "Are you okay?" I didn't abandon family. I chose myself, a choice long overdue. Masimanskev. Picture me at a tech summit sharing this truth. Family isn't a debt to repay. It's a bond built on mutual respect. Some would nod, others squirm, but the words would linger. What do you think? Was I too harsh, or did I finally embrace the self-love I deserved? Share your thoughts below. Your story could be the spark someone needs to navigate the tug-of-war between duty and freedom. I imagine your comments, some cheering my courage, others judging my resolve, each reflecting your own battles with family expectations. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, know this. You're not alone. I see that young woman reading my words, tears brimming, realizing her worth. "You are enough," I'd whispered to her. My journey taught me a vital lesson. True family sees you as a whole person, not a resource to tap or a shadow to ignore. Setting boundaries isn't selfishness, it's growth. I didn't seek vengeance. I chose silence, letting truth speak louder than any shout. That silence was my first step toward peace, a peace rooted in self-worth. My story isn't about tearing families apart. It's about rebuilding yourself when respect is absent. So, what's your take on my choice? Did I cross a line or protect my heart after years of neglect? Drop your thoughts in the comments and share your own experiences. Your voice might light the way for someone lost in the balance of love and duty. Follow for more stories that dive deep into the heart of human struggles. I smiled, picturing your words. Sophia's a trailblazer, or she went too far. Every comment proves stories like mine can heal, challenge, and inspire.